What is that you're doing?
Oh, I'm just kind of, all of these are unique, so I want to get a feel for its personality before I get started. Right, this video we're going to talk about, and you're going to get to watch me render a sphere. Okay, we're going to begin by drawing a perfect circle. I have a compass. If you don't have a compass, you can use a cup or a bottle. And I want my line to be somewhat dark, not super dark. The one drawback in using a compass is that you're going to end up with a slight dent in your paper where the point was. But you do end up with a very beautiful shape. And there we have it. So the next step, this is the most important step when we're thinking about rendering something to make it look three-dimensional, is we have to identify what's in light and what's in shadow. This line, by the way, just represents the tabletop. So I'm going to draw in the division of light mass and shadow mass, and I'm doing that with a graphite pencil. You can use your 2B, 4B would also work. I don't like how the tabletop is connecting with that line. Move it down a bit. So I have the division on the sphere, and I'm going to draw in my cast shadow. So again, we have the division of light mass and shadow mass, the two most important elements of light. What's in light and what's in shadow. To fill in the shadow mass, I'm going to use my Vine charcoal. This is the tool that you have that's very lightweight. And when you apply the Vine charcoal, you want to do it in a consistent manner, with your marks very close together. And then you're going to always blend in the opposite direction. I'm using my middle finger, and you can notice how I'm using my index finger to kind of direct it. And if we wanted to make this a little bit darker, we could by putting a second layer down and then blending in the opposite direction. You get a very smooth finish versus if you're like, ooh, I'm in art class, so I'm going to be creative. And you come in and you can see the results is you get this sporadic, chaotic surface. So we want to aim for something more like that. So I'm going to apply a layer down of the Vine charcoal. And I'm not really putting a lot of pressure down, just kind of letting the charcoal drag on the paper. And it's important for us to also consider the background. I'm doing this for my imagination, and I'm going to imagine that the background is fairly dark. So I'm going to put a value down for the background. And use my finger, I'm going to blend across the marks. And I'm not worried so much about staying in the shapes. Actually, it's kind of nice when your finger is a little dirty, because you can use it to create the more subtle values in the light mass, and that's what I'm doing there. I'm going to put another layer down. And when I put the second layer down, I try to go in a different direction than the first. So if you remember over here, I went this way. So the second pass, I'm going to go in a different direction. Using my pinky, my next favorite finger to blend with. Sometimes going in little circles like this also helps with the blending. It smooths it out, gets rid of the marks. So once we've defined what's in light and what's in shadow, the next thing we have to consider is where is our darkest dark going to be and where is our lightest light. In this example, I'm going to make my pitch shadow the darkest dark. So that's the shadow that's directly underneath the object. That's called the pit shadow. And the highlight is going to be my lightest light, which we'll find that around over there. We're not going to put any charcoal in the highlight. We're going to be careful to keep that area clean. So I'm going to avoid getting that area muddied with charcoal. So I have my darkest dark and my lightest light. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the next most important element of light, and that's the core shadow. The core shadow is found right where the light ends and the shadow mask begins. It's very crucial because it's also considered the cross-contour line of the form. And as you guys can remember, the cross-contour line really helps define volume. So when you're looking out into the world observing, you really want to look at that shape. For whatever reason, when we're doing the sphere, it looks better when your marks are going up and down. I don't know why, it just does. So I try to apply my marks consistent, not a lot of pressure. We're going to build up to the strong darks. And I try to keep the marks fairly close together as well. I have my blending tool. I could use my finger, but at this point my fingers feel a little awkward and large. So I'm going to use the blending tool. I might go back to my hand if I feel it would be faster. I love using my finger as a drawing tool when I get to smudge up. I'm going to use my medium pencil to kind of follow the silhouette of the sphere. And I'm doing this so I don't lose the shape. Switched off to the blending stump. Remember guys that it's important to think about the environment. So another good reason to put a layer down for your background. I might put just one more layer down to help smooth it out, and I'm going to do that with the medium, or I'm sorry, the soft pencil. Sometimes too, we'll see if I need to do this, but sometimes if the paper still has that kind of rough texture to it, even after I've blended it, sometimes what I'll do is put another layer of the vine charcoal down. We'll see. So right now I'm going to leave the background alone for some time, and I'm going to come back and focus on just developing my core shadow shape some more. And I just want to be careful that I don't lose the shape. I want it to be an ellipse, or at least appear to be somewhat like an ellipse. I'm going to work a little bit on the cast shadow now, because I want to create a separation between this shape and that shape. And we can do that with value differences. And we don't want any competition with the lightest light. So even though in my imagination the tabletop is light, I want to give it some kind of value, just to set up a hierarchy. So this will be definitively our lightest light. I feel like the shape is getting lost here a little bit, so I'm going to give another layer for the background. I'm putting down another layer for my shadow mask, because I want the shadow shades to group together, meaning that there shouldn't be a dramatic shift from dark to light. It should be a gradual shift. I decided to use a little bit of the vine charcoal because I wanted an easy time blending the surface. We don't, however, want to go much darker than this with the vine charcoal, so I really can't use this anymore in the shadow mask. I'm switching over again to my soft. One thing you want to watch out for is what's happening here, where we have this kind of sporadic quality where it goes from dark to light to dark again. We want to be consistent. Put another layer down here of the vine charcoal just to help smooth out some of the texture that's forming. Step back and say, what does it look like? Okay, it's coming along. Some things I could work on is the edge. The edge could be more crisp. I also don't like how the pitch shadow is really reading very much like a line. To make the edges crisper down below here, I'll just use my kneaded eraser. Likewise on this side. For the top part, I'll come in with my pencil and just, again, we don't want lines. We want a sharper shape. Lines will make your work look flat. Our goal is to achieve volume. Notice also that when I'm using my blending tool that I never use it like this. Avoid the writing instrument mentality with this. You want to hold it on its side, and it's not that I never ever do this, it's just very uncommon. You're going to get a smoother finish if you hold it on its side. Where the cast shadow is closer to the object, it's going to be slightly more firm. As it goes away from the object, it's going to get a little more fuzzy, kind of blurry. Stepping back and saying, what does it look like? I think my shadow mask could be a little bit darker because I want this to be dark enough where the reflective light will be able to fit in. I haven't yet placed my reflective light. Using my kneaded eraser to pull out my reflective light. What's cool about charcoal is nothing's done immediately. Everything's done in layers. So if you don't get it on the first time, that's a good thing. I took it away and then it was too dramatic. So I'm coming in with my wonderfully dirty finger and just knocking it down in volume a little bit. So I don't like, look at that spot over there. One thing that's incredibly difficult to do is to get a very soft transition from the core shadow to the light mass. That'll come with practice. There might not be anything I can do too much with that little dot at this point. I probably pushed a little bit too hard into the paper. just remember to be patient as you're learning to use your charcoal. A lot of times it's just about making mistakes and learning from your mistakes. You put a mark down, you can't erase it, and then you learn next time I won't make the mark in the same way. So just practice, practice, practice.